In the previous class, we were discussing India and its neighborhood, and we looked at this concept through the framework of the diplomats Rajiv Shikri's 5 arcs. When we were discussing this, we were talking about the topic of extended neighborhood. So, extended neighborhood, as you can see, is not just the ones in the green color, but also the ones in the blue and the red. So if you divide this entire geographical region into two halves, the characteristics of the relations on the left hand side and the right hand side are slightly different. So for the sake of our study, we will delineate the dimensions of engagement. Now, when we are talking about the dimensions of engagement, this is exactly the framework which we will use to write answers in our mains answers. So the dimensions we'll use in our mains. So if I have to generate content under a time limit, imagine you have just 7 minutes and I ask you a question. Examine the concept of extended neighborhood of India. What are the terms of engagement with different countries associated with India's foreign policy? You cannot write a one-size-fits-all answer for all the countries. At the same time, you have a word limit. Now, if you take a look at this, you cannot write a country-wise answer. You cannot write Oman, Yemen, Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania. Individual country you can't write. At the same time, you cannot ignore the commonalities of all these countries. So, whether it is the West Coast or the East Coast, there are some common terms of engagement. Okay? And there are some differences in the terms of engagement. What are the things that are common? What are the things that are different? This structure of analysis will reduce the friction when you are writing a mains answer. So, you know the dimensions of engagement: political and strategic, economic interdependence, cultural and diaspora links, and connectivity initiatives. While you are in the class, I am giving you this methodology of learning. When you are in the class, repeat the terms along with me. Understand the terms, repeat the terms, and get the work done within the class itself. So let's see the dimensions of engagement: political and strategic, economic interdependence, cultural diaspora, connectivity initiatives. If you find this difficult to remember, just let me help you by showcasing what each of this is. Political and strategic, this is what? GS2. So, whenever you want to generate dimensions, let's take the framework of the syllabus only: GS1, GS2, GS3 and GS4. Political and strategic, where will you put this? So, what comes under GS2 political? What do you mean by political engagement? What do you mean by political engagement in this context? Are we going to meddle with their politics? Then what exactly is this political engagement? Can you give an example? Why should this be a metric at all? Trade. Then what will we deal in the GS3 component? Of course they are interrelated, but why should I talk about political engagement? The answer is not trade. It is a secondary impact. But what is the primary impact? Exactly. It is political engagement is always about negotiation. Remember that, let's say a country A, B, C, each of them are sovereign. By definition, if they are sovereign, they do not have any boss. Nobody is dictating them, this is how you should behave. And when you have a change in the leadership, take the case of Bangladesh for now. Previously you had a leader who was friendly towards India. Now you don't have that kind of a situation. So the personality cult will definitely influence policy making. Yes or no? So the political engagement here is about the DNA approach: dialogue, negotiation, and action. Okay, this is the GS2 aspect. And in the first class, in the class prior to this, we discussed the concept of power. What is power? It is the capacity to get something done. Power is placed in a authority, and authority changes every time there is a newly elected leader. The seat of authority will not change, but the person who is sitting there will change. Right? So, personality cult will definitely come into the picture. Take the case of US. Donald Trump's policies are not exactly, similar to the policies of his predecessor, Joe Biden. It involves a political stance which will impact our country. So, political engagement refers to the dialogue, negotiation, and the actions taken therein to manage the power of that country, the position of that authority. This is what you mean by political and strategic. Now, when you mean strategic, what do you understand by that word? Strategic interest. Can anyone tell me what is a strategic interest? But that is mutual benefit. But what is so strategic about it? What is strategy? Tell me. Optimal use, the word should be efficiency. A wise plan. What makes something wise? What is the definition of wisdom? Now, this conceptual clarity we will get. Once we get it, you will be able to apply it in many topics. What is the so-called wise plan? What is the strategy? Every country works for their national interest. Efficient planning. Okay. Let's move away from international relations, and I will tell you two business case studies. One is the case study of Gillette. You know what is Gillette? The razor. The cost of making that razor is much more than the price at which it sells. Once you start using that razor, the blades are much more expensive than what they would cost. So once you are trying to acquire a user, you are keeping the user hooked to that habit. So the amount of money they earn over a period of time will increase. Same is the case with Instagram, for example. Are you going to pay for creating an account of Instagram? No. It is free. But remember, there are no free lunches. That is the strategy. When you give enough amount of data to the company, it curates an advertising platform that gives sellers the correct data to find the buyer. Therefore, strategy by definition has one facet. That is, you're always going to give up something in the short term in the interest of something that you will get in the long term. That is the meaning of strategy. Strategic interest. For example, why is India giving away money for its neighbors in form of grants? It is a strategic step. Why is US willing to share technology with India? Because it can counteract China. There is always a benefit, but the benefit is asymmetrical in nature sometimes. The asymmetry associated with the benefits is the crux of a strategic step taken. I'll give you one more business case study. Back in the early 1900s, when there are many toothpastes which are in the market, Colgate was trying to get a lion's share of the market. So please put it on silent, everyone. Please put your mobile on silent. So when Colgate was trying to acquire this market share, they tried many ideas. They were advertising, continuously pumping money. And then there was one guy who came up with an idea, who is a business strategist, a very famous one. Colgate employed him as a strategist specialist. And he charged, apparently back in those days, some $1 million or something. And he wrote in a single line, increase the size of the hole of your toothpaste. And they were, what is this? Is this why we paid? But that exactly proved to be the game changer for Colgate. You know why? Every time people started squeezing toothpaste out of that tube, the bigger hole made it eventually inevitable for the customers to take more of the toothpaste for every time. So whether they liked it or not, more toothpaste was used. And naturally, once they started using it more and more, they felt comfortable with it. They improved the product. Better marketing improved the sales. That is a strategic step. So it feels counterintuitive, but in the long run, it is the actual right thing to do, which gives you benefit. In terms of international relations, you call this a strategic interest. In terms of business, you call this a contrarian bet. The same philosophy is also applied to the financial markets. It's called contrarian investing. Okay? So these are all feathers of the same bird, but they manifest in different kinds. So this is the meaning of the word strategic. What is the underlying crux? There is an asymmetry means the balance is towards the other side. It feels like you are giving away a lot of things. I'll tell you one pricing strategy also in business, because these words mean much more in business than in international relations. So you'll remember these things quite vividly. When a discount coupon is given to you by Zomato or Swiggy, even if you want it or not, let's say you get a 140 rupees off or 120 rupees off, not the usual 40 rupees, 60 rupees. If you get a 120 or 140, even if you don't need it, sometimes you are likely to buy. This trap where the customer feels like they're getting a loot is in fact a volume game played by the businesses. That is also a strategic step. So it involves an element of psychology where the benefits are given away first and then later accrued multifold by the one who is giving it. This is the strategy behind it. So this involves GS2. Next, economic interdependence. Now this is the step where we are talking about GS3. In the topic of GS3, there is a topic called mobilization of resources. In the strictest sense of the economy, what this topic is teaching us is the taxation principles. Tax, non-tax sources of revenue. This is purely from the standpoint of economy. But if you take the broad meaning of the word mobilization, simply put, it means we are gathering all the resources which are required for generating money. Correct. Now, when you are talking about this mobilization of resources, the first thing you need to think about is geography. Take the case of China. China has the minerals which are required for the future, and they are called the critical minerals. You all know it. 70% of the world's critical minerals are located in China. And to be able to tap into that, they have to produce some technologies, and they are having a monopoly over those extraction technologies also. So the entire value chain of economic production is captured by China. In this context, what is the strategic strength they will have? Imagine if China is willing to partner with India, the largest provider of minerals is partnering with the largest market in the world today. Whether we have a purchasing power parity on par with other European nations is a different question. But there is a sense of economic interdependency, which is created by supply demand. In international relations, whenever negotiations happen, you will see this strategic interest collaborating with the resources. That is the economic interdependency. Cultural and diaspora links. Now, this is a topic which is there in GS2, Indian diaspora and culture. So, whenever in IR you are talking about the topic of diaspora, there are so many facets to this. Let me explain how. Firstly, diaspora is a product of migration. Okay? This topic of migration you will study in GS1 in Indian society. Okay? So here you will talk about push and pull factors in international relations, Indian society. This is how the flow is linked. Now, when this migration is happening at a rural and urban level, it is called internal migration. But when it is happening at a global level or national or global level, it is called external migration. And this external migration again has push and pull factors. The push factors include, again, GS1 topic, world history, namely colonialism. Plus, you will see an element of imperialism. Are you following me? Are you understanding the flow? IR, diaspora. So, migration is the main point you need to focus on. It is there in Indian society. Indian society has the topic of migration where there are push and pull factors. What is the meaning of this push and pull factors? Anyone? Push factors means the factors that contribute to people being pushed away from a village to a city. This is mostly because of the distress in that village. There are no jobs, there is no proper economic opportunity, or extreme climatic events are forcing people to move out of that place. When you're talking about the pull factors means the factors that pull people to the economic centers of production, namely cities. Same is the case with international migration. But in the case of international migration, the push factor from our country to the outside country has historically been slave trade. India banned slave trade way back in 1840s only. But the migration of people did not stop. Yes, the slave trade was banned, but people moved out of the country in search of employment. Legally it was banned, but personally there was a network of individuals who would arrange jobs in foreign countries. And even today, even until recent times, you will see Gulf being the hub of this migration from poor states like even previously even Telangana, Kerala, Bihar, Jharkhand, people from all these places were going towards Gulf nations in search of livelihood. The kind of jobs they got was drivers, construction workers, servants, and their passports were seized by the workers and they were held hostage. This is the lower rung of the ladder of the economy. Now, this is the push factor. What about the pull factor? The pull factor is about the migrants who left this country in search of a better life, namely your peers who must have left to the US in search of a livelihood in America because of the quality of life. So when you look at the countries where skilled workforce migrated from India, they form a diaspora community. Like your US, Australia, UK, everywhere across the world. And they have a cultural impact in that region too. So if you are talking about the diaspora, you have to talk about the historically displaced communities from India, say Africa, South Africa, or the Caribbean islands. You know the West Indies cricket team. You will hear a lot of Indian names. A case to the point being Shivanarayan Chandrapal. Where are all these people coming from in West Indies? It's because of migration. So many families moved from different parts of the world and settled there. And they became the locals there, adopted their identity. But the thing about this Indian culture is they always have a historical connect back to India. So here also push and pull factors will determine the quality of the migrants and the kind of impact they will have. So the migrant community that left this country and settled in places elsewhere become a very influential force in dictating the politics of that particular place. So much so that we have had a previous UK Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, and he was the son-in-law of Mr. Narayan Modi. Okay, so you have a community that left this country and became the prime ministers in that region, impacting the politics of that nation. You also have people who have Indian origin. For example, take the case of US Senate now. There is this person called Vivek Ramaswamy, who happens to be from India and has historically been associated with India, but they will obviously claim an US identity. But how do you tap into that diaspora? How can you mobilize that identity to dialogue, negotiation and action in your favor? Is also an important factor. So this concept of diaspora is very intertwined with all the topics that you see. GS1, history, society and culture will manifest in GS2. So that's why I took some time to explain this in detail, to break down the terms and how we have to think about it. So this is the GS1. Now connectivity initiatives, developing infrastructure projects to enhance physical and digital linkages across regions. Now look at this, physical and digital. If you talk about the topic of infra, where will you find this? In the topic of GS3. See, if you have to think about infrastructure as a theme, there are two ways to look at it. You can think of infra as a standalone topic in economy, or you can think of infra as a GS1, geographical enabler or geographical connectivity. And when you're looking at infra from the lens of GS2, it is establishing contact. Whatever may be the perspective in which you look at infra, whether you are looking from a geography standpoint, economy standpoint, or a diaspora contact standpoint, infra is generally considered an enabler or multiplier. Enabler or multiplier in negotiations. No matter which country or which block we are dealing with, these are the dimensions which we will be using. Yes or no? And when you are talking about infra, there are two more things you need to know. Infra can be divided into physical, digital. So this is the discussion of GS3. We are not going to elaborate here, but I will briefly tell you how to look at this. To build something, you need money. Let's say, for example, we want to construct a bridge. Okay? To construct a bridge, let's say it costs us some 100 crores. But India has only 50 crores. So now you are looking at a bridge that is going to connect the northeast with Myanmar. Okay? Japan, with the help of Asia Development Bank, let's say, comes into the picture and say, boss, don't worry, I'll give you the rest 50 crore. What is Japan's interest here? Firstly, it makes some profit in this project as a player or an enabler. It will make a cut. Secondly, any future Japanese companies that are willing to utilize the logistics arrangement in this region will find that as a enabling aspect. So this is the strategic part of investment. So you are looking at GS3 from an investment standpoint about infra. Now, what if this investment is supposed to be made by the government of India itself in a country like, let's say, Afghanistan? Why do they do that? To establish goodwill. So this is called soft power diplomacy. Now, this should be unconditional to build the goodwill. If you make it conditional, you become China. The strategy of China is called checkbook diplomacy. These words are very important, guys. You should be very careful about how you use these words. Okay? So a topic in GS3 can become a topic in GS2 international relations like this. Going forward, you will witness topics which are increasingly multidisciplinary. What is the meaning of this word multidisciplinary? Different subjects, namely GS1, GS2, GS3 will be packaged together into a single question, and you need to be in a position to interconnect all these points. So if you don't have the money for this, you will have to bring that from international sources and fund it here. So this is the infrastructure dimension. Now there are two things here. Physical infra, this is one example. Digital infra. So DPI is a concept which is evolving now. What is this digital public infrastructure? DPI stands for digital public infrastructure. Please write down if you want. Here, when you are dealing with DPI, Government of India invested in something called India Enterprise Architecture, or simply put, India Stack. So it refers to a tech stack that is predominantly funded by the Government of India with the help of private players. A case to the point being UPI. UPI is something that is created by NPCI, National Payment Corporation of India. Now, let's say if this is the A, B, this is, let's say, Paytm, this is PhonePe. Previously, during the time of demonetization, it was a huge concern that I need to have a Paytm wallet only. The concept of interoperability, that is transacting from a bank account through a Paytm and then going to PhonePe, was very difficult. It is because of this UPI, it now enabled a payment ecosystem leading to a new business vertical called the fintech. You do this to the world of finance. It creates a fintech industry. You do this to agriculture, agri-tech, healthcare, digital health mission, space. Any sector you take, if the government itself is investing in it, creating an ecosystem, and private innovators are joining to serve the Indian needs as well as create products for the world, that is also a strategic interest for India. This is how you have to view infrastructure. What are the things we learnt? GS1, GS2, GS3. What are the things we learnt? Can you repeat once again? From GS1 angle, what did we learn? Culture, cultural linkages. GS2, strategic and political and strategic engagement. GS3, economic interdependency and connectivity, infrastructural connectivity, both physical and digital. And finally, fourth one, the dimension that is missing right now is ethical. When you're talking about the ethical dimension, it refers to the soft power diplomacy. In ethics, the first chapter has something called human values. The literal meaning of the word value is preference. Why do you value something? Because you want it. That's all. As simple as that. Why do humans value some things? The justification behind that becomes ethics. Okay? So when you bring this discussion on what are values to the table in international relations, you will get a framework of analysis for your international relations based on values. That is why in GS4 you have ethics in an IR. Sometimes whenever you are reading any topic in IR, even though newspaper articles and the magazines that you refer, even though they don't explicitly give you the ethical perspective, I would insist you look at the ethical perspective. Why? Because you are training your mind to think in a multidisciplinary manner and extract the ethical values out of this relations, the international relations. Alright. So if you can have the capacity to debate about a topic from the lens of GS2 as well as GS4, that capacity is the edge that you gain. And that capacity is the edge that I would want you guys to have in this class. Clear? The framework of reference from GS 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it clear, everybody? Which one? Okay. Ethics in international relations. For example, you during the time of COVID, vaccine Maitri. This is the name of the initiative. Right. Then in 2015, when the in Nepal, when you have the earthquake, we gave out a huge chunk of money as a grant and called it the Humanitarian Assistance and Disaster Relief Fund. Why are we doing it? What are we valuing through this initiatives? What is the value? Yes, Nathan? What do you think is the value? What do you mean value? Value means prefer. What are we preferring over something else? Goodwill. Or, okay, service. If this is the metric, we have a lot more people in India too. Okay. Is this leveraging of soft power a value or a strategy? It is both. It can be both. So when you are preferring something, it is a description of why you are doing something. But the justification, if I justify this through a theory, I'll call that, let's say for example, realism. Realism is a school of thought in international relations which says that strategic autonomy, that the word that created the buzz in Ministry of External Affairs after 2014. What does it exactly mean? It means that we will put a nation's interest above everything else. Now you might be wondering, how is this exactly working? What did I tell you? Strategic benefit means a benefit that is asymmetrically going to come back after a long period of time. First you give away, it will come back, and we are going to prefer this on the value of goodwill. So goodwill as a value is ethical in the context of international relations because it creates stability, predictability and mutual trust. So we started with value and extrapolated it till a justification. That is how you interpret current affairs, through the lens of ethics. I hope you got it. So in the absence of understanding this, a framework that you use to understand this, this will seem like hollow words which you will continuously by heart. Now you don't have to, because it is nothing but the syllabus. That's all. Now if I take a look at the extended neighborhood as a concept, you have multiple regions here. Indian Ocean region, Southeast Asia and West Asia. There are three regions that we are talking about. In the context of West Asia, a lot of developments are happening. I will take up this West Asia as a standalone topic because of the increasing level of current affairs on that. But as far as the framework in Indian Ocean region and Southeast Asia is concerned, let us try to look at it from the lens of the dimensions we discussed. Firstly, the Indian Ocean region. Why am I talking about this Indian Ocean region? Anyone? See, if you take a look at this entire region, do you have any major player here? It is called, in the diplomatic parlance, India's strategic backyard. You can write this down. Indian Ocean region is called the India's strategic backyard. Okay, please note these words. And in the framework of the Rajiv Sikri's 5 arcs, this arc is what? Sea lanes of communication, arc of connectivity. So this region is extremely important because of some important geographical locations, namely Strait of Malacca, Strait of Lombok. These are important passages that will dictate logistic cost for major powers like China. So any current affairs or mapping activity that happens in this area will be extremely important for your prelims exam. So here, somewhere here, China is trying to cut across and create a pathway for Chinese ships to cut down all the cost and therefore create an alternative pathway for China. Can anyone tell me what that is? So you are trying to So I'll show you. look at this. Kra Isthmus is the narrowest part of Malay Peninsula in South Thailand and Myanmar. 44 kilometers wide, separates Andaman Sea from Gulf of Thailand. It is famous as the proposed site for a shortcut canal to bypass the busy Strait of Malacca. Take a look at this here. See, normally this is the if you see this place, this is the world's busiest sea lanes. If something happens in this region, the entire this part of the world and the traffic therein gets blocked. So what China was proposing is this Kra Isthmus. So they will dig a canal and reduce that distance. So in the map it might look like this is a small place. Why are they trying to just bypass this? Why can't they go just some more distance? There is something called mercantile projection. You know, Africa is much larger than how it would appear on the global map. Okay. So it might look like a small distance, but it is not. If you finish this project, it will literally reduce the cost of China by at least 20-30%. So this is the isthmus. Now, when you get questions like this, you'll have to know 1, the geography, 2, the mapping, 3, the intent, and put all the scattered facts in a framework. These facts individually will help you in prelims. Giving them a structure and mapping them under a idea gives you the analysis for mains. Are you following me? Let's take the example of this Kra Isthmus, and I'll tell you how to use a fact in your exam. So let's note some points from here. Firstly, can anyone tell me what is this isthmus? Or is the pronunciation correct? I-S-L-A-N-D. Is it island or island? Now why is this isthmus? Why not isthmus? Anyway, what is a peninsula? So, if you are a beginner, let's have some basics first. If you are preparing for prelims, I am demonstrating how you should prepare a topic. I don't know what is this. Then I don't know what is peninsula. Then I don't know what is a strait. Then it is saying Gulf of Thailand. Then it is passing through Bay. What are all this? Where will you find all the meanings of this word? Okay. So, is this a current affairs topic of IR, or is this something that you should know in geography? Correct? So, here, next. What are some other words? Malay Peninsula. Okay. Then, okay, Kra. Then strait. Lombok, Malacca, Hormuz, Gulf, in this case, Thailand, Bay of Bengal. Okay, so this forms mapping. Now, this geography and international relations mapping are nothing but facts. You mucked up all this definitions and facts. What do I do with it in mains? Can I write an answer in mains using all these facts? What else do you need? First of all, what is mains? It's an analytical framework that helps you shape policies. So what exactly are we missing? A framework. So what is the framework here? In which context were we discussing this current affairs? This fact-based current affairs? In the context of IR, of course. In the context of Indian Ocean region. What is the significance of this point in the context of Indian Ocean region? If I ask you this question, what is your answer? Why is CRA isthmus important in the context of the discussion in Indian Ocean region? China? It's actually increasing China's influence because it will reduce the cost of logistics for China. See, when you are talking about a single event, your entire focus will be on the predominant narrative set by the newspapers. So you need to zoom out. So this, let me take one more step. IOR. What newspapers show versus newspapers or magazines show versus what UPSC expects. So whenever you are talking about a topic like CRA, you are majorly focused on China. The context is China always. But this is not how UPSC expects you to study this. Your ability to position this topic as a point of debate in the larger context of the Indian Ocean region and the stability in that region. When you are taking away your focus only from the dominant narrative and you are able to look at the entire region, you are focusing on more than China and all the other stakeholders. When you talk of other stakeholders, the way you position that answer drastically changes. Every person will say this is going to help China, this is not going to help China, and you will dump a series of facts saying that it will reduce logistic cost, etc. तो क्या करूं मैं? What do I do with it? How is it going to benefit India? How is it going to showcase yourself as a statesman? How are you going to position yourself as a diplomat? The larger context here is Indian Ocean region being the strategic backyard of India. And this kind of projects impact Indian influence in the region. Now, there are two ways to negotiate this. One instinct is, let's stop this. Can you do that? Or what is the alternative? That is what stopping or countering means. What will you do to counter? Will you go and invest in? And do what? Make Chinese investments even more easy and send more ships? What do you mean by countering here? How will that help you? This is not about port. This is about passageway. If you are a diplomat and you think like a diplomat, imagine this to be a game of chess and there is nothing right and wrong. See, if I say I want to stop that project because it is not going to benefit me, it's ideal. If we are all subscribing to that realist school of thought where India's interest is placed above any other countries, what is the most logical thing to say? I will stop that project. Now, the second question to ask is, can you stop that project? You wish, but you can't. So tell me, how will you deal with it? Transshipment. But is this project about transshipment? It's about a passageway. Bring a multi-stakeholder approach for regional stability. Simply put, it's like you have a very big real estate project. Sometimes, this is off the record, something that you see in movies. You will have the local goons coming and saying that, where is my cut? If you bring that to a slightly more formal context, we call it multi-stakeholder engagement. So if you involve multiple stakeholders and rally behind them for a cause that is not directly linked. Thailand is agreeing to China's proposal because it needs something from China. What if other countries come together and serve that need of China, serve that need of Thailand, and make them stop by saying that, look boss, China will take over you, look at the history. If you allow them, you will not have sovereignty in your own country. Think about it. If you have proper communication channels which are not so crude as I told you, that is nothing but diplomacy. Is it wrong? No. Because this is what every country does. If you don't do it, China will eventually take over and do exactly that. Understood? So, nothing is right and wrong, it is not so obvious. Now you understood an example of the difference in approach in prelims as well as mains. In the prelims level, your magazines and compilations will give you the list of facts that you by heart. But you rarely get questions like that. You will get questions in the context of how you utilize them for substantiation in the mains level. So if I were to position this fact that I read for prelims in mains, what would I do? I would say I would put this under the heading of political and strategic interests for CRA Isthmus. Deployment of a multi-stakeholder engagement protocol involving other countries in the Indian Ocean region to maintain a regional stability and make India the net security provider in the strategic backyard of this country, of this Indian Ocean region. So these are the words. What words did I use? Multi-stakeholder engagement, net security provider in the strategic backyard. Okay? Why is it called the strategic backyard? What did I say about the word strategy? There is an asymmetry. If you are providing security for the ships passing in that region, you will not get anything today. But in the long term, it will build an influence and a sort of dependency. Remember one mantra. Always give. It gives you more power. Unless and until it is necessary, do not take. If this is the approach, and traditionally this has been the approach, to let go and give away, you will gain power. The more you seek something, the farther that power goes away. If you take a look at the civilizational values of this country, at an individual level, you have something called Varnashrama system. And at the last stages of your life, sannyasa, as it is called, refers to giving away something that you owned all your life. And that is considered to be very powerful because it takes a lot of courage to give away something that you own. You are fighting a battle all your life to gain control. And then you fight a battle with yourself to let go of that control. And that is the civilizational value that this country stands for. You bring that to the diplomatic engagement. You do not have an imperialistic tendency. You do not want to occupy countries. You do not want to cheat people. And that has traditionally been the stance of a country that we stood for. Therefore, Indian Ocean region is a strategic backyard because of our civilizational value of being a net security provider, giving away. Okay? It gives us power. That asymmetrical provision of giving something away without expecting much always becomes a source of power. Understood? Have this frame of thought. So, the reason why I picked up that specific example is to show the difference in how you approach prelims and mains. Prelims is a bunch of facts. This bunch of facts, when placed under an umbrella heading as a point, your ability to structure this point and put it under a heading and a subheading decides your fate in mains. Therefore, if you want to succeed in topics like international relations, always start with a framework. Then all the facts will be tagged along or pushed under respective folders. If I say that we have a folder in our, let's say Google Drive, then IR is a folder. In that, India and neighborhood. Under that, you have extended neighborhood. Under that, you have Indian Ocean region. In that, you open a doc and give a framework. This is a point of reference in arc of communication. So, sea lanes of navigation you will find here. Under that, you write down keywords. India wants to be a net security provider in the strategic backyard of Indian Ocean and aim to become a Vishwaguru. These are the keywords. And to these keywords, you can add prelims notes. So, what did India do, or what did respective countries do to claim this status? Here you will talk about how this is true. Why should India be a net security provider? You will talk about Strait of Malacca, Strait of Lombok. Then you will talk about this project. Then you will talk about the upcoming project in the Great Nicobar area, which will give India a strategic edge. A list of activities like this will be clubbed together in this note. You might have one news item from last year, February. This year, you will have a fresh news. Both of them will be clubbed together in the same note. In the absence of a structured framework like this, all those will be scattered and they will be flying around in your head and you don't know what to do with it. The same set of current affairs, when we are preparing for our prelims exam, will be extracted and will be listed out. So I will just give you the theme here. And all the items, 1, 2, 3, we can by heart them later. But doing the reverse is extremely difficult. When you have a scattered piece of knowledge, bringing them together becomes extremely difficult. But once you begin by bringing them together and saying that these points belong to this subheading, it's much more easier and much more organized. And that is the problem of current affairs for a lot of students. So the Indian Ocean region becomes a theme. West Asia becomes a theme. Central Asian region becomes a theme. Europe becomes a theme. Americas become a theme. Therefore, for each of these regions, you will have the same dimensions of engagement. Now, the only difference here is the upcoming strategies. Sagar, Mahasagar. These are the new updated strategies. Okay. What is this Sagar, Mahasagar strategy? Let us see. Now, I will show you one more addition to this. There is a take a look at this last year's. In the context of India Maritime Week, there is a framework created by our government called the Mahasagar strategy, which is particularly relevant in the context of Indian Ocean region. This is a current affairs. Let's see. This is India's maritime movement, which is transforming the gateway of India into the gateway of the world. Where is gateway of India, guys? Mumbai. Delhi or Mumbai? What is that thing in Delhi? India Gate. Tell me the significance of Gateway of India. Any idea? Okay. The name itself indicates the Gateway of India. It's literally the entry point into the India. And also one more thing. It is the place where the last battalion and the last ship of Britain left India after Indian independence in 1948. Okay. So when you look at articles like this, you can directly pick up the keywords and use them in your mains answers. So in the context of Indian Ocean region, now we are going to witness some topics. So what are we doing? IR. Under that, we are talking about neighborhood, then extended neighborhood. Under that, IOR. Under that, we are talking about maritime vision. Why are we talking about this maritime vision? Because IOR is India's strategic backyard. Now let's carefully learn the skill of extracting relevant information from an article. Till now I gave you a framework. Now you will tell me as I read out what are the keywords that you want to take away from this article. What will you take away? Prime Minister Modi's maritime vision is based on 3 pillars: security, stability and self-reliance. Do you want to note this or remove? Okay, let's see. What are the 3 pillars? Security, stability, now can I write Atmanirbharta or self-reliance? 1, 2, 3. 3 pillars. What do you mean by stability and what do you mean by security? Aren't they one and the same? What is the difference, guys? If you are stable, you are secure. Tell me the difference. Think and tell me. But we are talking about open oceans. What is external, internal here? Inside and outside? If you have security, you will have predictability. Don't you think so? But why separate subheadings? Stability is balance, which you get from security. Why are they two different points? Let's take the case of Afghanistan. Today, is Afghanistan stable? What makes you say so? So? Exactly. Stability comes from a sense of safety and belonging where all the stakeholders get a respective say. I keep on telling about this point in the context of democracy. Multiple times I've told you. Democracy is not about the roar of majority, but the ability to listen to the whisper of the minority. When you have such kind of a environment, you are respected. Stability comes from that sense of belongingness. You might feel secure temporarily, but in the long run, you're always under a threat. Right now, you're secure in Taliban's Afghanistan because there is no one to oppose you. What if someone opposes Taliban? You neither have stability nor security. Security comes from a rule-based world order. Stability comes from a rule-based world order. Security can come from the fear of threat also. Clear? Security, stability and Atmanirbharta. Due to the reforms undertaken by the Modi government in the maritime sector, India today stands as an emerging force on the global maritime map. Do you want to take anything note here? Nothing, empty words. Leveraging its maritime position, democratic stability and naval capabilities, India is acting as a bridge between Indo-Pacific and Global South, fostering development, security, environmental progress. Do you want to note anything? Why do you want to note it? Isn't it obvious? So, what seems obvious to me today might not seem obvious to you. Then how will you decide that this should be in your notes, this should be omitted? That is why it is important to look at the current affairs through the lens of PYQs. Okay? So, when I say that Indian Ocean region or India acts as a bridge, so I'll visually present it like this: India, Indo-Pacific region and Global South. This again becomes two themes: Indo-Pacific region and Global South. They must be having some common needs. If India is the bridge between these two regions, there must be something overlapping. The same thing can be represented like this. So, we mean to say that India has something that both the parties or both the entities have. Correct? What is it? If India taps into that, we will get this 3S. India should give something and take something for this 3S. If this is the objective, let us see what they are. Did we arrive at anything meaningful yet? No. Let's see. The Maritime Week Summit will play a role in achieving the goal of positioning India as a top in maritime industry by 2047. Where can I put this? So I don't want to add any more points here. Keeping in mind the small island states and the global south countries that depend on the sea for their livelihood, India is moving forward with a vision to create a green, prosperous and shared ocean. So why are we doing this? What does India have? What can India give that other countries need? The ability to create a shared vision for prosperous oceans. So for this, what did he do? The Prime Minister maritime policy has evolved into Mahasagar, mutual holistic advancement for security and growth across regions. So Prime Minister's Modi's Sagar to Mahasagar is a strategy that will, first it is a wish list. Sagar is a wish list. Many years ago, Indian government expressed a vision that, see, this is how I want our Indian Ocean region to look like. But did we create anything meaningful? No. So the Mahasagar strategy is that structure given. Now this is an article that is written almost a year ago. Now, recently you have Shanti, that is securing holistic advancement through norms, trust and integrity framework. So whenever you are talking about IOR going forward, a lack of mention of this word Shanti will become a negative point in your answer. You should definitely talk about the evolution of the framework. So till now everything is fine. Now there are some words like this: Sagar, Mahasagar, and Shanti. What are these words? Sagar, Mahasagar and Shanti represents a wish, a structure to that wish, and the rules and institutions required for the structure to actually work. Think of it like this. Okay? Sagar, Mahasagar and Shanti for the Indian Ocean region. Now again let's start over. What are we talking about? We are talking about India's extended neighborhood, and in that one of the region is the Indian Ocean region. Indian Ocean region has, the government of India has a vision of creating a secure, stable and self-reliant Indian Ocean region, so that we have a vision of shared prosperous oceans and become a bridge of Indo-Pacific region and the global south. This is the maritime vision that India has. Clear? Now, what exactly are these three programs? Sagar is just saying I want all the regions to be prosperous. Mahasagar means saying that this is the way in which I envision. So let's see the previous article. What they were, Mahasagar, if you take a look at it, broadly put, there is nothing that will clearly tell this is what I want. See, you read the entire article, nothing concrete will come up. So, in short, the Mahasagar strategy was trying to figure out how to fit the existing government initiatives like the Sagarmala project into the framework of the Indian Ocean region's prosperity. Now, once this policy was announced, immediately after an year, it gave a proper structure leveraging the existing government policies. Now, let's see what that Shanti policy is, because it's much more important for us today. Where's this in Hindu article? One second. Why is this coming in Hindi now? Okay, do one thing. Open the Telegram channel once. The VKS Telegram channel. In that, search for Shanti. Shanti initiative. There is an article here, if you can see. And in that, you will see that Shanti can be best understood as a logical evolution of its maritime outreach program. In that, I gave you an analogy. How many of you are able to look at this? Yeah. Sagar is the initial idea, which says that we should safeguard the Bay of Bengal from threats. Mahasagar is the expansion and realizing what happens in Pacific Ocean can spill over. Nothing concrete. Then Shanti is the actual manual, set of rules. What to do, who should come into the picture, and how we'll share the costs. So the principles to practice subheading, you'll see that we are trying to leverage the existing institutions like BIMSTEC, which also agreed to hold its first joint maritime security exercise in the Bay of Bengal in November 2026. A white shipping information sharing agreement remains under discussion. These initiatives reflect the norm building and trust based cooperation that Shanti seeks to promote. Its lasting contribution will not be another acronym in India's maritime lexicon, but a redefinition of security, from deterrence to resilience, from rivalry to shared responsibility. So that exactly is what I am trying to say. When current affairs are asked, UPSC is capturing the shift in an ideology. Till now, we took up the onus of providing that security to the Indian Ocean region all by ourselves. You have any doubt? So, that would be a very huge responsibility for us, right? The Indian Ocean region is not just the responsibility of India alone, that would be a huge cost for us. So this strategy is creating a kind of a manual or a framework to give that responsibility to everyone. We realized that in today's world, without a collaborative effort, without having some kind of a incentive, no country will sustain that enthusiasm for helping India for a very long time. You give an incentive, that structure will sustain for a long time. You ask for help, it is very short-lived. Same is the case with business also. Your friend will ask for a help. You will help him once. But he makes you a business partner, you will be much more interested to get your hands dirty there. That's the simple logic. Understand human psychology. Same is the case with diplomacy. Okay? This is the framework in which you have to prepare the Indian Ocean region, called the the Shanti initiative. Now, This is August 2026. There is something written in that article which says that BeamStech will come up with a joint maritime exercise in November 2026. So definitely in the future you will have a revisit of the same doctrine. So the next time, are you going to read everything and again note down every point? No. Whatever is the latest addition to that structure, you add it to these notes. Understood? This is how you have to make notes for your exam. Today we finished the Indian Ocean region and the Sagar, Mahasagar and Shanti initiative. We understood the meaning of many important terms. Now I have a homework for you. When I was discussing this topic, you saw a bunch of words which are from your static. How many of you know the meaning of all this? Tell me, without a doubt. All the points. Okay, tell me, what is this? Okay, peninsula. Strait. Then what is this? What is the difference between these two? Then what is a gulf? And how is it different from a bay? How wide? Is there a technical definition? So go back, by heart all these definitions technically, and one more thing. In your previous year questions, all the important straits, gulfs, bays, peninsulas, note them. In the future, you will have on the top of this one more layer. Do you find important minerals in this region? What are the important rivers? What are the important geographical locations near this? Are there any conflicts in this region? Why are they in conflict? If they are in conflict, in the larger topic of international relations in mains, where will you plug them? Which subheading will you push them under? This is the kind of thinking which will help you in your organized preparation of current affairs. Are you following me? Great. Now, moving to the next area. Southeast Asia. Okay? We are done with IOR. Now we are going to the Southeast Asia and then West Asia. This topic is a standalone topic which will require a separate discussion, and it will require discussion of each individual country and the rivalries therein, which we will do tomorrow. Okay? So we will just stop here with Southeast Asia and let's see how we can expect questions from this at both prelims and mains level. So there are two ways in which current affairs can be dealt with. Usually in many classes you will have a list of material which are given to you, and that dump of material you are asked to memorize. My style is oriented towards getting major thinking part done within the class. Once you go back, the grunt work of by-hearting etc. should be done through self-effort. And I want you to leave some space here by taking down the points. Okay? So, when I give you a homework, please take it seriously. That will constitute your prelims preparation. It will help you immensely in your long run. Don't delay that. Southeast Asia, when you are talking about, we have something called Act East policy. Look at the words which are taken from the ministry again. Focusing on deeper economic integration, connectivity, strategic partnerships. Anything new? It is the same language that you see here. Political, economic, same thing. What are the countries here? Vietnam, Thailand, Myanmar. Do you relate this to any of the arcs. Which arc? Instability. Why? Golden triangle. So this is the hub where you will see illegal activities like drugs, money laundering, terror financing, which threatens India's stability. Why do you think Act East policy came into existence? If you neglect Northeast states, develop Northeast states. Why are you developing the other countries? Will have a why? Trade. Block the trade then. Shared ethnicity. If you take a look at the Northeast region, you will find that border regions which are drawn by the borders drawn by the political masters hardly matter. What has much larger influence is the shared ethnic history. Just on the other side of the border, you will have your relatives. You will have people who are sympathizers of a secessionist movement, people who want to divide this country. No matter how much you want to control, you can control the local idea. You can control the local population, but you can't stop the idea. When you're dealing with terrorism, there is often a famous saying, you can probably attack the messenger, but you can never kill the message. You can attack the terrorist, but you cannot attack the idea behind that terrorist. What is important is get to the root cause. Root cause is the discontent amongst the people and a lack of a sense of belonging in that region. Understood? So, to create that sense of belonging, what should we do? Obviously, invest more money, give governance, democracy, all those GS2, GS3 pointers are done. What more can you do? Even if you're doing that, someone from the outside can bother the local population and trigger them and make them feel like whatever is given to them is peanuts, nothing. They can be made to feel like respect is not being given. Understood? Everywhere dignity is not ensured, those places will definitely have instability. Yes or no? So the Northeast region has always been a very volatile region. The 7 sister states have multiple governance structures, the 5th and 6th schedule being a case to the point. Why do you have autonomous district councils in some states? Because the constitution ensured that stability is created when you give autonomy to the people at the local level. Even after that, in the bordering parts, you will have insurgents coming over and trying to disrupt the constitutionally established governance architecture. So, having force is not always going to help. Why are they coming? They are coming in search of something, maybe money. How about we contain them there itself? And you can't do it alone. You require a diplomatic engagement channel. That cooperation, that shared menace can only be stopped by shared responsibilities too. And it is in that context we have had the Look East, Act East policy. Look East policy was the one before this. Just because you are focusing on them doesn't really change much. After the government came in 2014, the Act East policy came into existence. They've historically tried to settle many conflicts in this region, namely the Naga Turks, the issue of BRU, refugees, okay, Riang tribe. There are many tribal people in these regions, and the issue in Manipur is yet to be resolved. So these are the current affairs, but there is a historical context to these issues. Once you understand the historical context, you will understand the present context too. Clear? So this is the framework of thought. Now, when you are talking about Act East, it refers to the set of initiatives by the government. What are they in respect to countries? So, Act East policy is like a overarching document for the entire region. Let me show what it is. Take a look at this. Act East policy, launched in 14, is an upgraded version of the Look East policy. What is happening here? There is a core framework: culture, commerce, connectivity and capacity building. The 4C approach. Southeast Asia. Here you are talking about the 4C approach in Act East. What are they? Culture. Let's take a look at them. Culture, commerce, GS3, connectivity, GS3, capacity building, GS2. Same points. Wherever or whichever initiative you look at, it is the same GS syllabus and the alphabet soup of the same ideas. So culture, commerce means trade, connectivity and capacity building. Why are we talking about this capacity building, guys? There is a saying: give a man a fish, he will eat for a day. Teach him how to fish, he will live for a longer time. Okay? So this is the 4C approach for your Southeast Asia. Now what are the countries majorly? Vietnam, Thailand, Myanmar. Are there other countries too in this? Yes. What are the countries? Cambodia, Laos, and most importantly you have so this is the most important block, a regional block, where it becomes the conduit of diplomatic engagement. So India will majorly deal with ASEAN because it is much more easier. If you take ASEAN headquarters as the nodal unit, the countries involved therein, they will resolve their conflicts internally and come and sit at the ASEAN headquarters. If you go there, half of your job is done. That important ASEAN is. So we'll be learning about ASEAN too, and you will be looking at the initiatives through this 4C lens only. Not much has been happening on this front, but if you were to prepare for prelims, depending on the previous year questions, again here, what are the points you need to note? One, the countries involved, the major countries, their capitals, rivers, the international organization, ASEAN, and the multilateral developmental finance initiatives, or the banks, multilateral developmental banks, like Asian Development Bank, etc. You should focus here. The history behind it. The traditional notes that you require are already taught to you in the international relations classes, but just as a quick recap, I am teaching this. not much is happening on this front, except maybe some sporadic issues like the South China Sea problem. We will discuss that separately because it's a standalone issue. We'll discuss it in the context of the China and what Chinese government is doing. So China has a policy called the 5-finger policy. Okay, if you consider China as the palm, it has 5 fingers. It is trying to occupy these 5 fingers as territory: Arunachal Pradesh, Tibet, Sikkim, Bhutan and Taiwan. It wants to occupy all these regions. What is this context, backstory? We'll go back to that later in the context of China. Why am I talking about it? Act East, ASEAN, Southeast China. So this brings us to the conclusion of how we have to look at the extended neighborhood. The last thing that is left is West Asia, which requires a standalone lecture for an entire hour. And I don't want to stop it midway, therefore I am stopping it here. West Asian region is complicated, primarily because it is the arc of energy, arc of instability, arc of communication converging at one geography. It's a geography that is complicated, which complicates the history and complicates the international relations scenario as well. In diplomatic engagement, West Asia has always been the most challenging for India. Not in terms of the effort it puts to deal with it, but in terms of the optics or how people will perceive across the world, because of the confluence of India's economic interest and religious identities. Gulf countries predominantly are Islamic nations. Any change in the way India conducts with those nations will have a influence on the local politics. As such, the engagement with China is much more challenging for Indian diplomats. But for the governments to handle, West Asian region is much more volatile. And time and again, we have successfully come out of those conflicts because of certain strategies we deployed, namely dehyphenation strategy. Okay, so we'll discuss much more in tomorrow's class. That's it for the day. Let's quickly recap before we close. What did we learn today? Today we were discussing India and its neighborhood. We began by looking at the 3 divisions of the extended neighborhood, namely Indian Ocean region, Southeast Asia and West Asia. We discussed the first 2, Indian Ocean region and Southeast Asia. Before we discuss the Indian Ocean region, we looked at the dimensions of engagement. What are the dimensions of engagement? GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4, we have seen that. After that, we looked at the Indian Ocean region. Indian Ocean is called the strategic backyard of India, and we now have a maritime vision, and India acts as a bridge between the Indo-Pacific region and the global south. We have something in common. That Venn diagram you can envision. What is it that we want? 3 S. Security, stability and self-reliance. If we have these 3, we can give what? Shared vision of a prosperous ocean. Clear? So for this, the strategy of the government has been initiated with the Sagar strategy, which later evolved into Mahasagar, and now we have the Shanti initiative of the framework. Next up, West Asia. Tomorrow we will discuss. Southeast Asia, what are the things we discussed? Look east, act east. Why? Insurgency and the shared vision of ethnicities proved to be a destabilizing factor for Northeast. As a result, the Act East policy has a twofold concentration. One is to focus on the internal security aspect, which you will study in GS3 internal security, and the other aspect is the Act East policy, where you will collaborate with multiple stakeholders and invest in this region, so that we have a shared responsibility too. In this context, we also saw the what is the other thing that is left? Yeah, ASEAN. I asked you to go back and verify the facts behind ASEAN and other multilateral developmental finance initiatives in this region, the basics. Tomorrow we will see the West Asia. So in this way we will move forward according to the need of the hour. So whenever I am giving you a work, what is the work that I gave you? Definitions of various geographical terms and the list of issues that you collect. That's it from my side for the day. See you tomorrow. Okay.